Afterwards, we'll deliver your car to you. You can pick it up from one of our car vending machines. Either way, your car comes with a 7-day return policy. So grab a seat, relax in your comfy pants, and enjoy the new way to buy a car at Carvana.
With the money I've made on Poshmark, I've been able to pay for all our family's vacations.
I could pay for my wedding just on what I've made from Poshmark.
I've made over $10,000 and I was able to buy my new car.
Download the free Poshmark app now.
Hey, little fella, big guy, you know we love you. But while our food has gotten healthier, your food hasn't really changed. With its powdered meat, spray-on flavor, and preservatives that make it last way too long. It's time for fresh meat and veggies. Real food with expiration dates that belongs in the fridge next to our food. Now, who's hungry? Fresh Pet. It's time for fresh.
My car is my after-work decompression zone. So when my windshield broke, I found the experts at Safelite Auto Glass. They have exclusive technology and a service I can trust.
Safe like repair, safe like replace.
Mafia Killers with Colin McLaren. Tomorrow on Beatles.
A morbidly obese loner, Jared Fogle shot to fame after losing hundreds of pounds on a diet of Subway sandwiches. But as his celebrity grew, Fogle began to increasingly use his wealth and fame to satiate his most base desires. As Fogle's sexual behavior became increasingly deviant, his relationship with his wife deteriorated. In 2007, Jared and Elizabeth Fogle divorced. 2 years later, Fogle hired Russell Taylor to run his personal charity, the Jared Foundation.
So Jared has a partner. He runs the Jared Foundation, which turns out to be a foundation that really never did much. It wasn't very competently run.
A USA Today investigation would later reveal that the foundation was a sham. According to the paper, from 2009 to 2013, the foundation didn't issue a single grant. The paper also reported that the foundation spent just $73,000 a year on average. 60% of the money went to the executive director's salary, and 26% was unaccounted for. In the meantime, the newly single Fogle befriended newspaper reporter Rochelle Herman Walrond. But in an epic lapse of judgment, Fogle soon began telling the journalist about his illicit desires.
Herman Walrond told police in Sarasota, Florida, that Jared had made salacious comments to her about middle school-age girls at a health event she was covering for a local news station. The police directed her to the FBI, who asked her to wear a wire during her conversations with Jared. Over the next 4 years, he was recorded making inappropriate remarks about having sex with underage girls.
The content of those conversations offered a damning glimpse into Fogle's private life. In one conversation, Jared laid out a plan for luring children into sexual encounters.
Just sharing stories, and then, we get a little closer, and before you know it, this is just happening.
At one point, Herman Walrond asked Jared if he ever considered the feelings and personalities of the children.
Is there any kind of personality to look for? I think it just goes to depend on the situation. I don't know. We'll see.
But Jared's sense of impropriety had all but vanished. He even asked Herman Walrond to help arrange for him to have sex with children, including her own relatives.
Jared went so far as to request that Herman place a hidden camera in her daughter's room so that he could get a look at her friends.
If you put a camera in your kid's room, would it be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever have in your son or your daughter's room?
In exposing his darkest criminal desires to Rochelle, Jared revealed a man who was so caught up in his own warped sense of reality that he had little fear of being caught.
Jared, who was empowered by his celebrity status, felt more confident approaching strangers for inappropriate content. He hoped that people would be so flattered to be in his presence that he could say what he wanted, and they would honor the fact that he opened up to them in strict confidence.
I think it's wonderful of you is that you're able to give you an answer
Michelle Herman Walron recorded Jared for 4.5 years. In his text and phone conversations, Fogel expressed predatory desires. But in the eyes of the law, having these fantasies is not a crime. There simply wasn't enough solid evidence for authorities to move forward.
You can write about it, you can talk about it, but as long as there's no proof of you doing it, it's very difficult to get an arrest warrant for someone.
In 2008, Fogel took his interest in illicit sex to the next level when Russell Taylor told him he accidentally recorded underage teens having sex on a nanny cam inside his home. Taylor alleged Fogel demanded to see the footage and then pushed him to place cameras in his children's bedrooms and bathrooms, hoping to catch their young friends during sleepovers in the nude. Taylor willingly complied.
Further investigation into Jared and Taylor's relationship showed that Jared was the mastermind behind the operation. Explicit content would be gathered by Taylor and given to Jared so that the spokesman never had to directly get his hands dirty.
With no punishment for his actions, Fogel saw no risk in sharing his wild fantasies with even more people. In 2008, Cindy Mills, a Subway franchise owner, said she had grown uncomfortable after a series of texts from Fogel and decided to hire a lawyer to have the messages extracted from her phone.
In these texts, Jared requested that she arrange for him to have sex with her 16-year-old cousin.
Mills also claimed that she'd shared the messages with Subway management and warned that, quote, he should not be interacting with young people.
People like Jared don't become monsters overnight. Jared had a long history of being tied to sexual content. Unfortunately, the people she reported Jared's request to didn't take serious action, or any action at all.
Jared's sexual behavior was veering further and further over the line, but he was still somehow managing to avoid getting into trouble.
Jared may have avoided acting on his urges for most of his young adult life. When he became famous and lost all the weight, what probably happened was that he gave himself permission to uncontain himself from the sexual desires that had been long-term and long-standing for him.
Due to Jared's status with Subway, he felt like he could do whatever he wanted. He came and went freely from locations and had casual relationships with workers. When relationships with workers escalated to being more intimate, he felt comfortable enough to ask them to do his bidding. He was a big shot in the company, and what he was doing with his co-workers, he felt no one's going to challenge him, because if they did, he'd come after them and they'd lose their job.
Despite multiple troublesome reports to authorities, Jared was still riding high. In 2008, Fogel embarked on a 10-city Subway-sponsored campaign called Tour de Pants, which celebrated his decade of diet success. In 2010, Fogel married a woman his brother had introduced him to, teacher Katie McLaughlin. In 2011, the couple had their first child, a baby boy named Brady. But marriage and fatherhood did little to quell Fogel's appetite for illicit sex. In 2012, 2 years into his marriage, Fogel began trolling the internet and hooking up with underage girls while away from home on business trips.
You know, when people struggle with sex addiction, they put sex as their primary relationship above all else. So they take a lot of risks, whether it's sexting or engaging in high-risk sex behaviors or risking public humiliation. They put that, at the forefront of their world.
Fogel was consumed by a vile sexual fever that was causing him to take bigger and bigger chances. For Jared, there was no antidote. He was headed for an epic fall that would make him notorious.
My mom is getting older, and projects around the house aren't as easy for her to handle by herself, but I can't always be there when she needs me. So when her roof started to leak, I went to Home Advisor and found the right pro to help. I can read their reviews, check their credentials, and it's free to use. If anything comes up with my mom's home and I'm not available, Home Advisor always is.
Go to homeadvisor.com or download the free app.
At McCormick, we're obsessed with flavor. It's why we partner with sustainable farmers to find the finest herbs and spices and blend perfectly balanced seasoning mixes. But You don't need to know all that. You just need your food to taste great, which we promise it will.
We call it the mother standard of care. It's how we care for our patients, like Joe. His team at CTCA treated his cancer and side effects, so Joe can stay strong for his family. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Appointments available now.
This Balsam Hill tree creates magical moments at the push of a button. Made with craftsmanship you'll enjoy for years to come, and hand-strung lights that add a twinkle to your holiday gatherings. Balsam Hill's true needle foliage is what makes this tree look stunningly realistic. Make this tree yours. Have a happier holiday with free shipping at balsamhill.com.
For a while, I've had like a kind of negative self-image. With Noom, I was able to learn how to interrupt those thoughts and create new ones. I've never been as confident in my body.
Visit Noom.com and lose the weight for good.
Dr. Bob, what should I take for back pain? Before you take anything, I recommend applying topical relievers first. Salonpas lidocaine patch blocks pain receptors for effective non-addictive relief. Salonpas lidocaine patch, roll-on, or cream.
How to make a delicious bowl of oatmeal. Start with full grain Quaker oats. Then add a spoonful of boldness. Definitely a cup of you deserve this. Your perfect bowl is yours to create. Our oats, your creation. Quaker oats.
We need someone like you here in Stumptown to take the cases that the cops can't.
Cool. New Stumptown, Wednesday on ABC.
With the money I've made on Poshmark, I've been able to pay for all our family's vacations.
I could pay for my wedding just on what I've made from Poshmark.
I've made over $10,000 and I was able to buy my new car.
Download the free Poshmark app now.
Kim is now demonstrating her congestion.
Save it, slime ball. I've upgraded to Mucinex.
We still have 12 hours to Australia.
Mucinex lasts 12 hours, so I'm good. Now
Good. Only Mucinex has a patented tablet that lasts 3 times longer for 12 hours.
What's my safe flight story? My car is more than 4 wheels. It's my after-work decompression zone. So when my windshield broke, I searched for someone who really knew my car. I found the expert at Safely Auto Glass. With their exclusive technology, they fixed my windshield, then recalibrated the camera attached to my glass, so my safety systems still work. Who knew that was a thing? Safelight, a service I can trust.
Safe like repair, safe like replace.
Want a great movie you can watch at home? Reels recommends Avengers Endgame. Marvel's greatest superheroes reunite against evil in the highest grossing movie of all time. Watch Avengers Endgame on demand. And tomorrow night on Reels, Burt Reynolds.
You turned down some of the biggest roles. Die Hard before Bruce Willis.
No, I don't regret turning down anything Bruce Willis took.
Burt Reynolds. 5 stories with Piers Morgan. All new tomorrow on Reels.
For more than a decade, Jared Fogle had been living a double life.
Get a butt where it's
Publicly,
great.
he was the wholesome, down-to-earth pitchman for the Subway fast food chain. But privately, he was a man with an appetite for child pornography and underage girls. Despite telling his dark desires to virtual strangers, Fogle operated with impunity. He starred in hundreds of Subway commercials and lived the life of a celebrity. But unknown to Fogle, his inappropriate fantasies had been reported to authorities. Police were monitoring his activities and waiting for the Subway pitchman to slip up. But in 2013, trouble seemed miles away. Subway was opening 50 new locations a week, and executives credited Jared with 1/3 of the company's growth. Jared had starred in over 300 commercials for Subway.
I spent the last 17 years talking about how Subway's changed my life and what it can do for others. I want to be doing this for the next 17 years.
He also parlayed his success into television roles.
He has been featured on an episode of Sharknado. He's been on WWE Raw. This guy not only became famous for Subway commercials, he became a celebrity on all these other shows.
Jared's wholesome, everyman image was so synonymous with Subway, the company even began incorporating his wife into its ads.
We saw him when he'd been a college kid losing all this weight, and now he managed to get married. I mean, it was kind of a success story to this whole thing.
For more more than a decade, Jared reigned supreme as the Subway guy. Financial analysts speculated his net worth amounted to $15 million. But in 2014, Jared's luck began to change.
The Jared fad had already begun to dim, and Subway had begun to use him less and less